how your hand works isn't the way that my hand works. It isn't the way that Jimi Hendrix's hand works. Everybody's hands are different. There is no cookie cutter way to come at this, but what I want to do is I want to show you how I came to understand the thing that I'm going to show you. You've got to believe it, because if you don't, then you'll keep on trying to play your bar chords by putting your index finger on first, which is what most people teach. I strongly disagree with everybody who does it that way, because I think that it slows you down because you're not working in balance with how the machine of the hand works. And this is what the Gray's Anatomy book and the drawings showed me. So this is your hand. There's your nails, fingernails there. We have these tendons that come up each of the fingers. So I want you to understand the machine, your tendons in your fingers. Look at this. So we have a tendon that runs along each of the fingers. We have tendons that do that over there. So these tendons are called your extensor. So these are your extensors. On the other side, these are your flexors. I think of them as like strings, you know, when you tighten a string up. So the thing is, you've got a balance in the hand where you pull in that way and you pull in that way. But what happens is we have these funky things that we are calling junctura tendinum. They are made of the same stuff as the tendons, and they cross over here and they cause that sense of rigidness in your stretch here. There is another thing as well that does that, where your fingers terminate here. You've got something called sagittal bands. They keep your knuckles where they should be, okay? So you've got two things that are working against you getting a wide hand and making your hands move in this movement here. If I put my fingers here like this, it's okay, they're straight. But when I move a finger down there, there is tension in the sagittal band here. And also when I stretch wide, there is tension here in the junctura tendinum. So these are the tendons that join the extensors, and they allow or restrict your range of movement. And this is the machine that we are working with, guys. So we've got to factor it all in there. So these can be tight. The sagittal bands are easy enough to stretch out, and there's a whole bunch of exercises, and that's probably something for another lesson. But what I want you to understand is, if your fingers are struggling to move to where you want them to be, then you're going to find that this is what's going on. It's almost subconscious that when you put your hand on and you try to make a bar chord in the traditional manner, here's what happens. The traditional technique, and I'll play a G chord here, what you do is you go from this position here, you put a bar on first, you work against that sagittal band there in between the index finger and the second finger, but also you've got some stretching going out here, and to put that second finger on and then put your third and fourth finger on, and that feels completely awful, really difficult. Now here's how you bypass it. We're going to play an E shape, because this is the most common bar chord you're going to come across. This is the one that you want for your F. You can use it for a B as well. So there's your E-shaped chord. I'm going to transpose it up the neck like I did with my bar chord. I'm going to switch my fingers around, and now I'm going to take that whole E shape and I'm going to move it up to the 4th and the 5th fret there. And then look, what did I do there? I put the bar on last. The bar can actually go further than you think once that is more movable. This finger, this is what I call the scout. So really, you can see that what happens is that first finger becomes your capo or your new head nut, and I retain my E major shape there, okay? But like I say, look at this, the movement that I can get with this first finger. Look at that. I can keep my E shape on there, okay? Move that around. I could do circles with it one way, circles with it another way. And I could even try and hold 1 fret lower. You'll probably find that this will work 1 fret lower than what a bar chord should be. Because what you'd normally do is you would put your bar on first and then try and get this finger to do what you want it to do. But you're feeling that tension in between that sagittal bands there and those tendons. But what's bizarre about it is the easier way to do it is to tackle it with your middle finger. And I think that this makes sense, because if you look at the hand, the reason it's called your middle finger is because it's in the middle of your hand. It's where the balance comes from. That thumb looks a bit weird there. The shapes that we're going to find is we're going to use the middle finger here as a scout. So what we do, don't put the bar on first. We visualize the shape. We know what the shape is going to be. And then we put it on in a different order. And the 3-step process, we put the middle scout on first. So scout, and then the rest of the shape. Now the curious thing is, these 2 fingers here, they want to work together because it's easier when you put 2 fingers together, you get what I call a 2-finger group. That's called a 2-finger group. And you get them between each of your digits. You get 3 2-finger groups there. And they find it easier, instead of spreading, just to pull together. So if you can do that, and then you can do that, you can split them. So you do that, do that, do that. These little exercises, so we've got Spock, Live Long and Prosper. That little hand exercise is pretty good. And just switching between those 2 there, just to get some independence, just to strengthen those muscles up, you can do that. And then that means when it comes to putting the shape on, scout is easy because it's just 1 finger, okay? If you're trying to put it on, look at the angle, and this is where the thumb comes into it. If the thumb is too high, you're going to have the palm of your hand clasping the back of the neck there, and you don't want that. What you need is plenty of space, so make sure that the thumb is pointing up at 12 o'clock-ish there. You can put it to about 11 if you want, but what I'd say is just have that thumb there. Nice, easy grip, holding your fingers like that, creating that energy. So if we get that there with the scout and the thumb, it should feel very much similar to that. And then what we do is we put these 2 fingers on as 1 finger, and that's what I mean by a 2-finger group. So we put scout on, and we put that 2-finger group on to complete the shape. So once we've got the shape on, then we put the bar all the way across there. Scout, shape, bar. Yeah. When I'm playing this here, I'm really focusing on putting pressure on this string here, and this string here, because those are the only strings in my bar that are actually sounding. Yeah. Those ones there. Yeah. And if I was doing the Jimi Hendrix thing, I would put the thumb over the top, you see, and that's how he did it. Instead of barring across there, he probably did bar as well. So scout, shape, bar. Put the bar on last. Now, another exercise that you could do with it, if you want to just try strengthening the bar, like I did earlier on when I was saying to you about the pressure of how hard it is to hit the strings, you can put a bar on high. And I want you to notice how the bar shifts along from the flat part of the finger, and as you move further down the neck, it moves to the outside of the finger here. If you could see my finger there, it's quite rough and tough. There's calluses on this side here. So look, flat. And I'm just ringing all 6 strings out. But as I move down, what I can do is I can practice getting a sound out of each of the 6 strings that are available to me there in that bar. And if you play them randomly, it sounds like you're doing jazz. You know? Yeah, because they are kind of like a minor 11 chord. So you just play those there. Get used to that, developing the strength that is needed to form this movement here. Now, you can strengthen that by doing the duck exercise. It's a hand exercise that you can do. This is there's some remedial exercises that you can do. You can stretch it out and just practice doing that there. I know that looks silly, but that's just all about pressing and targeting those 2 together. Those are opposing forces to each other. So wherever I want to play this E shape now, okay, I'm just moving. I'm scouting, shape, bar. Okay? When we play an E-shaped bar chord that uses all 6 strings, you might have heard it as being a 6-string bar chord or a 5-string bar chord. A 6-string bar chord is generally an E shape. We've got 3 fingers on. We've got the 5th, the root, and the 3rd. And this is why I show you this stuff, guys, because if I lower that 3rd, yeah, I get the note behind the head note, which means I don't have to play it. I get an E minor, okay? I'm very out of tune. Close enough for rock and roll. Now what we're going to do is, instead of using the index to scout, we use a 2-finger group to scout. So say I imagine I know I'm going to go and play an A minor. I know that my root note for my chord, my A minor, is going to be here, 5th fret on the E string there. So what I do is, I know it's an E minor shape, so I scout with the shape. So there, put the 2 fingers on at the same time. If you can get used to putting the 2 fingers on at the same time, what that means is you're reducing steps in the process. And every step you take out of the process means you then become more efficient at shifting and playing between chords, and therefore quicker. We put those 2 fingers on there, then reach for the bar. And that's how you get your minor chord. So if I was going to play the major, scout, shape, bar. But if it's the minor, E shape, then I would play the E minor shape, and then I would play the bar across there. Now you can get a little bit of support here from your middle finger if your bar feels a little bit isolated and you don't know what you're doing with this finger, because I have had students who try and tuck this finger behind here and like have it out here to hang a coat off. What I do is I just say, put it next to your index finger like a Kit Kat, like a 2-finger Kit Kat. Yeah, just put that on there, right, and let it help push that bar down if you struggle. Now, there is another thing that you can do with this, and I kind of think of this as, you know how bottle cap works? I'll do an awful drawing of it, right? So this is the top of a beer bottle. The way that the bottle opener works is you put force at this point here, usually a force there, and then you have another force that's underneath there like this, underneath the lip of the cap. There's pressure going this way, and then there's pressure going out this way. This is what I think of as being the bottle cap method. We can do the same thing here when we come to our bar chords. And the way we do this is we can pull on the guitar. Now with this arm here, you can push into the body of the guitar like this, and if you look, notice what that does is it pushes the neck forward, and that puts more pressure onto the bar. One force moves that way and it's got to go the other way, but you can make that even less and just show you it works on a smaller scale as well. I can just localize that by pulling back here. If I keep that note there, it doesn't take much to hold down the E string at all. It's often much harder to get these notes to ring clear because they drop into the creases in your fingers. So I'm pulling this all the way towards myself. If I do that and I incorporate it with pulling down on the guitar body as well, what you'll see is that actually I don't even need the thumb. You need the thumb, but let me just show you that I can play the chord without a thumb, without that opposing force. Now you don't want to be doing that. This is a big no-no, and I often cringe if I see guitarists with the thumb under here, you know. Maybe sometimes if it's a vibrato on a single note, yeah, maybe, but not in this instance.